This is the internet's worst gaming podcast. I'm your host, Loki Jarson. After a 6 month absence, I think it's the last time we recorded the shows here. Stizzy?
It's unbelievable. We every time we say we're not going to do it, and we just here we are again.
Real life bullshit happens, and there's not a lot we can do about that,
Yeah, that's true.
unfortunately. What have you been playing in those last 6 months? Give me a quick summary.
Oh, quite a bit. Quite a bit. Um, I can't remember every single one. We were trying to rack our brains before the show here, but the big ones were, since their last show was
Uh-huh.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Okay, we can. That's a big chunker. Got a lot to say about that.
Yeah. Resident Evil 4, another biggie.
I didn't actually beat that, but I beat it, 20 years ago, so it's fine.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Yeah, it's my secret shame.
Okay, I'm curious to delve into that. And the other big one would be Diablo 4. It came out.
That's a good starting point because that's a game you and I played together.
Uh, yes. Yeah, we
Um,
did.
I, we both rented it from GameFly. Uh, I didn't beat it. I don't remember how far we got. You know what?
Yep.
We're stupid, right?
Yep.
So we're like, I've got a great idea. Let's just roll hardcore characters and get to level 50. We'll just do it, just for funsies. Just throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Have a blast. And we died at like somewhere around level 20, and
Yeah,
it's
22,
just
I
like
think.
all the air got sucked out of the room that night. It's just so deflated and depressed. And it's like, man, I don't even give a fuck about anything
Well,
anymore.
because we were on such a roll since then. And
Yeah,
we were just out in
kicking
the
ass.
world. We weren't even in a dungeon. And we just stumbled across some enemies. And before I thought everything was going swimmingly. And then all of a sudden I noticed, oh, hey, we have no health. And we literally died almost exactly the same time. If you slowed it down,
By the time we noticed we were dying, we were dead.
yeah, it was like in one of those samurai anime movies where the guy gets his head cut off, but he doesn't know until like 10 seconds later, and it falls off. But yeah, that definitely took the starch out of our sales. That's for sure.
I uh, I played maybe this certainly less than 10 hours after that. I made a bunch of little, I think I made every single kind of character there was. Did whatever challenge I needed to do for those, like get X number of kills with X character. But you went ahead and beat the whole thing.
I did, yeah. I think I did the same thing. I made a pretty much one of every kind of character and played a little bit of each. Um, no, I didn't get every character related to every class, but I stuck with rogue because I had a skill. I went on a skill tree and I had a certain move set that I really really enjoyed, and I was able to just tear through enemies with. So I just stuck with that and said, heck with it, because at that point, like you said, we just didn't want to get back into hardcore. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna just go through a normal playthrough and just beat the game and see how I like it. And I enjoyed it for the most part. I did enjoy the story. I'm not big in the whole Diablo lore because I never played the first two, and I played the third one. It's been almost about 10 years, so I can't remember a whole lot about it. But so I don't know if this game really matches up with the lore, if it has any contrivances or
Oh, I'll just tell you, yes. There's a lot of stuff in the Diablo 4 that has no bearing on the previous games, makes no sense, and is contradictory. All three.
yeah, and that's definitely what I've read from a lot of accounts from longtime fans. So that's definitely unfortunate.
There was. Oh, this is kind of veering off way off topic about upcoming Mortal Kombat, but this game should not have been called Diablo 4. It has dick fuck to do with the previous games. It doesn't even have Diablo in it.
No, it just references them, and I think it takes place it takes place in Sanctuary, which is the world of Diablo, if
Mm.
I'm not mistaken.
It's a planet,
Yeah,
It's like, okay, but where on the planet?
yeah, and presumably it's a different continent, but I don't know if it's ever been referenced in the previous works or games or anything like that. So, or if they just wanted to say, "Hey, this is going to be disconnected, but sort of connected," so we're just going to make a whole new place.
Lilith's been name dropped a bunch. I don't think she's ever been fightable, to my knowledge.
Sorry, who Lilith is?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I again, I don't even remember if she was ever brought up in the last game or anything. Because even if she was, she wouldn't you wouldn't perceive her as a big deal because she's not even one of the seven. She's not even one of the seven great demons or the three great demons, four lesser demons. But she's just the daughter of one. I think they just came up with a cool succubus looking design and said, "Hey, this is Lilith. Let's just have her be the antagonist of this game."
But you don't play these kinds of games for their story. You play them for hitting a million goblins in the face with an axe. And slowly getting a tiny bit of gold to get a little better shirt, to get a better level, to kill more goblins.
Yeah, and also for that sweet endorphin rush whenever you see a new piece of gear drop on the ground.
And the 3 seconds it takes to look at it and say, nope, it's crap, and forget about it.
The drop frequency in this game it didn't seem as high as in the previous game. I don't know if
It's definitely lower, I can confirm. I've played several hundred hours of Diablo 3.
okay, yeah, that's what it felt like to me too. I think I only played like 130, not nearly as much as you did, but definitely seemed lower. And I guess obviously that was by design. And
Yes.
for one, I don't mind it. It's like I said, it's nice to get that rush when you see a shiny new piece of gear, but it quickly fades away, and when you realize, yeah, most of the stuff you're coming across is not going to improve what you already have on. So it's it, it's much nicer when something drops and there's a good chance that it is better than your current equipped gear. And tearing through goblins was fun, at least for the rogue and for the other classes.
How many hours would you say it took you to beat the final Lilith boss?
To get to the whole campaign, I think it took me about 40 hours, something like maybe 35, 40 hours, something like that. Last level, which was spoilers, hell, took me, I want to say a couple hours, something like that. And I beat Lilith on the first try, and I think I was on world tier 1 or 2 at that point. I can't remember. It's whichever one's the highest that you can play through the first time, because if it's your first time playing the campaign, you can only rate the difficulty so many levels, and I think it was on the highest, so I didn't have too much trouble playing the game. It was only when I ever tried to, respec and try something new, because I at one point I got in my head that I wanted to do a long range build, but I don't know if it was the specific moves I was using or if I wasn't playing it correctly, because I seem to have decent enough gear to compensate. But even so, long range sucked for me playing rogue, and which is a shame because I really enjoyed the long range combat. The skill tree in 3 with the demon hunter. So I had to switch back to my classic that I was using through most of the game, which is the dual wielding daggers. It just carried me through the end.
If I had a favorite class, I guess it'd be probably the Magic Wizard. Wizard? What the hell fuck was it called? The Magic guy? Is it just Wizard?
I think it was Wizard, yeah.
I guess that was it. But that game is like, look, dude, I've played a lot of grindy shit. That's almost my bread and butter in terms of grindiness of games that I play. This game is really fucking grindy.
Mm-hmm. Especially towards
Like
the
the
end.
stuff,
Like,
if you're a trophy weirdo, the stuff they want you to do for all of this is untenable.
yeah, they got some PvP stuff thrown in there too, which I looked at it. I don't think the PvP would take a long time for you to get, but it still would take a few hours. And there's not a lot of, there's a lot of people that don't play Diablo for that stuff. So you'd have to really, really, really want the trophy.
This was something else I talked about, I think, during when we chatted about Hades all those years ago. Um, the amount of things you can get done in a certain amount of time is very important to me in a video game. In Diablo 3, you can get a lot done in like an hour. Maybe 2 hours, you can get a fuck ton of stuff done. You skip through all the story crap, cutscenes, fucking whatever. or the end game adventure mode. You're just doing stuff. You're just doing things, and things are happening. Diablo 4, nothing gets done in an hour. You're lucky to get to a new shrine, to a new, fast travel location. You're lucky to get through a dungeon and a half.
I say I don't know if I completely agree with that because I could in an hour I could get several side quests done, discover all these new areas, go through a dungeon. The problem was
Did you
I
have a
do
horse? I didn't have a fucking horse.
yeah, having the ability to travel quickly through the terrain is helpful. But I'm saying I would do all that stuff, and once you get past a certain level, for me it was I started noticing when I was in the 40s. Like you do all of that stuff, and your experience bar would only go up by like a third or some or a quarter or something like that, and you're like, geez, Louise, how much do I have to do to get even one level? It just, I mean, it just grinds to almost a halt where I don't know how many hours it would take to get to 100.
Probably 100.
It may be, maybe it might be more because I think last I checked, I think I had 55 hours into that game. Now, granted, there was quite a bit of time of that playtime that was devoted to other classes as well, not just my rogue, but I don't know, all that time with one character that can burn a guy out, meaning me.
No, I get it. But we played. I don't know if we want to talk too much about stuff we've played like recently. But the other day, you helped me get the platinum in Saints Row from last year. That game's 80 hours of grinding too. But I didn't feel that. You feel it in a game like Diablo. You feel how long it takes when you're playing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not so noticeable when you're doing the main quest because at least you have a goal, you have an objective. You're always going from
Hmm.
one place to the other. You're discovering new areas and enemies and upgrading your gear along the way. But once you get to the end game, then it just kind of feels like, okay, yeah, you can do some dungeons, you can pick up some collectibles, get some resources, but yeah, it just kind of feels like a lot of just flailing around just to get all the way up to max level or whatever you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. It's like the developers don't think you're going to play any other games. It's like, oh, you're just going to play all Diablo and that's it. There's nothing else this year.
No, and in fairness, the other games were big time sinks as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like we both said, we both invested hundreds of hours into the third game as well. And I think I had like 150 hours in three, and I only ever got one class up to the maximum level. The others were like 50, 40, 20, whatever.
I did. I'm not bragging, I promise you. But I did platinum 3 versions of Diablo 3 and 100% it on the Xbox. And I've not done anything on the Switch of any import at all.
I don't know if that's a big a brag as you think, as you believe
I'm
it
not
is.
bragging. I said it wasn't a brag. I'm just telling you that's how many hours I was willing to put into 3, but 4 doesn't have that spark for me. That joy, the fun, the fucking fun part of games, the most important part. It's not there for 4 for me.
I had fun with four. I would say I had probably just as much fun with four as three. In fact, I think the art style of four is vastly improved and fits much better into the world of Diablo than three's sort of slightly cartoony look did. When I think of Diablo, I think of dank swamps, grimy dungeons, blood everywhere, and gore galore, and four delivered in that regard.
Okay, thanks, Ed Boon.
Well, I mean, he helps create Mortal Kombat, so one of the goriest things of all time. So if he didn't enjoy those things, I would say he's in the wrong business.
The other thing it has in common with Diablo is ugly characters. So would you play Diablo again 4 if you got it like super cheap? I think it's still 60 or 70. I don't know that it's ever gone on sale.
Yeah, I'll probably get it again when the expansion comes out and it has a price drop. But I got so many other games on my plate and so many more on the horizon in the next 6 months, and it's just I got I got what I got, got what I wanted out of the initial playthrough.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I had fun with it, but I'm not eager to dive right back into it.
A game you did violently transitioning, like Diablo, so violently
Hmm.
transitioning.
Viscerally,
A game
even.
you did beat. We alluded to it earlier. Resident Evil 4 Remake came out early this year. Well, we never talked about it on show, except like I think a preview. Maybe we had a little bit. We talked about how shitty the Ada's voice actress is,
Hmm.
um, and she is shitty. There's no two ways about
Oh
it. She
yeah,
sucks at her job.
no
I don't
question.
care if it's her. I don't care if it's the voice direction. It's a bad performance. Period.
There were people that going too far, sending her death threats, and that's just never cool. But you just kind of have to take the bad with the good for in case the online shit. But anyway,
Back to the game.
but the rest of the
Is the game
cast was
fun?
pretty good as far as their performances. But what's this business about you not finishing it? I want to hear this.
Okay, so here's the deal. I rented it, right? And I kept it, and I was like, I'll come back to this. And then I didn't. So I own it, and I can reinstall it at any time. But how much different, honestly? I played the shit out of the original game on GameCube. I think I replayed it on some later system, the Wii, the fucking Wii, that had the stupid gun thing. How much different is it really, this remake, than the original game? Because that was different from 2 and 3. I never played original Resident Evil 2 or 3. So those were brand new experiences for the remake for me. 4, I played that a bunch already.
Well, in the original, the graphics weren't nearly as good. Obviously, you couldn't move around while you were aiming. You just had to stand there and just point your gun in a direction. You couldn't parry.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
could you did not have the quick change, the gun quick change, which is very nice. It's a good addition of the remakes. So there are some differences. At the core, though, it is still much of the same game, but that's what we wanted. That's what we want in our remakes. At the end of the day,
Updates for modern audiences.
maybe not a modern audience, because I don't think remakes should be for modern, the way we know it. When movie studio or whoever says, oh, we're redoing this or re-updating it for a modern audience or whatnot. For me, a game should be updated. It should have better graphics, more accessibility options, better gameplay, and that's just keep it mostly the same. And 4 did. I'll give them that. It's they deviated less in 4 than they did in 2, I think, and especially 3. Of course, 3 mostly just took things out, but
Yeah, subtracted content for whatever reasons they had.
and the only differences I can think in 4 were there were some parts of the castle that they took out. There weren't quite as many rooms as I remember, and some things were mixed together. Like you could see, oh, I remember, you know, in the old game, this room, there was another room that had this, but they've just combined the two in this one big room in the remake. And I could tell that they did that in the interest of making helping the game flow a little better. Because
Sure.
there's quite a bit of backtracking in the castle in 4, because in both the
Yeah,
remake
well,
and the original, the village and the um, training facility are pretty straightforward, and remake especially. Like the if that was my biggest complaint about the remake is that most of the cut content is from the training facility. There's a lot of areas that were in the original, but not in the remake. They keep the best stuff. They they keep the regenitors, and they're just still as creepy and hard to kill. But I think it was fantastic. I think it was a great remake.
yeah, unfortunately, it does not qualify under our very arbitrary rules that you agreed to for Game of the Year.
Did we ever carve those in stone? I need to look at those again.
I must consult the tome, the tablets. I
Where are
will
we keeping those
before
again?
the end of the year. Before the end of the year, I will go back and beat it. I like to, try to play the things in the year that they come out.
Hmm.
It's just 20. Like we talked about this before we started the show. It's like 20. The second half of 23 is stacked. They're just boom, 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 just stuff, 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 stuff,
Yeah.
and so we kind of have to juggle stuff. So in between those two big games, we've had little things like Street Fighter Six. You rented, I have. Um, it's okay. I mean, it's Street Fighter. If you like Street Fighter, here it is.
I think I do like what they did with in the direction went with the art style. It's still they never they have never favored hyper realistic aesthetics for their games. I did like how they looked in five, but they some of the guys could be in certain parts of the gals could be extra muscly. In this game, they kind of tone that a little bit, but or although some characters are still very much flamboyant or over the top or in their designs or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. But the core gameplay, I couldn't tell a whole lot of difference. I know they added new mechanics such as the drive gauge and the
Yeah, drive rush, drive parry, that stuff.
yeah, all them. And they had some interesting wrinkles into the combat. And I did like how the drive gauge there was opportunities to both help you offensively and defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for the most part it from what I've seen in people playing online and on YouTube clips or what have you. They mainly use the drive gauge to extend combos and whatnot, and I like having that option.
This would probably be. I was like, well, at least neither of us play online. We played against each other, for whatever that's worth.
Hmm. Yeah, we got a little taste of the different modes. Not all of them I didn't think were great.
Fighting games take commitment if you want to get good, and you might have that commitment because you beat me. I think you have a winning record in every fighting game we've ever played. But uh,
Maybe when I was younger, but the same thing with Diablo and just sticking with one game for a long time. I just don't know if I quite because I've gotten back into Final Fantasy 14, so I don't need another addiction. Yeah, but it's a solid fighter. It is.
yeah,
I I enjoyed playing it. I'm still I've played most every Street Fighter, but I've never considered myself an expert. So it's always fun to go back in and play with the old characters
I,
and learn the new
I
ones.
do want to say the world before we move on. The world tour mode, the single player stuff they added into it. I really don't like any of it. And it's not because of the customizability, it's in fact the lack of customizability. You can wear whatever dumb shirt or dumb hat or make your person look like a fucking freak. It's the moves. In that mode, they limit your move set intentionally, so you have to level up and learn new moves, by speaking to the world warriors themselves.
Hmm.
And then they hodgepodge your moves. It's like, okay, you'll have a fireball and the kick hoken, but then you don't have the spinning bird kick. You have to, use Marissa's forward punch and shit like that. And it's like, man, I don't like how just it just feels broken, but it's intentionally broken because it's designed for new people. It's like I'm not a new person. I've been playing since Street Fighter 2. I know how this shit works. I may not be good at it, but I understand the fundamentals of Street Fighter. So like, okay, we're gonna force you to play with our new modern control scheme. It's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, you can eventually switch it, but it takes a while. You have to get past that initial tutorial mode in World Tour. I liked how you could use the masters, what they call them, the fighters' special moves to interact with the environment, destroying crates or getting to areas that are kind of out of reach. That was pretty neat, but
Yeah.
it's it doesn't take long for you to realize just how much time you're going to have to invest in the game to, like you
Yes.
said, even like do something just really really simple like unlocking all the controls.
Ima- Imagine a Yakuza game without a story. That's basically what World Tour mode is. You just every 10 feet you get in another fight. And instead of some cool crime thing, it's like, hey, help me catch my pig or something stupid like
Now, now,
that.
now, 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 Loki, it has a story. It's just not a good one.
It's a terrible story. Some guy who ends up being Ken is like, hey, go to this place and punch this guy. And it's like, all right, cool. Now go to this place and punch this guy. It's like, this sucks.
Well, in a fighting game, your options are either punch a guy or kick a guy, so it's or occasionally
There are
throw him.
better ways. We've complained about NRS storytelling, but there are better ways of telling a fighting game story. The actual way they do it, we don't like, but at least they attempt a story. Street Fighter did not attempt a story.
Yeah, NRS's style of telling a story has its own issues, but they're still far from perfect. But we might have to leave that for another show when we actually get our hands on
Yeah,
the new game.
when we recorded it, it's just about to come out. Spoilers for this episode, whenever the fuck I actually release it. But that'll be the next big damn thing is Mortal Kombat.
Can't wait.
Any other small things we got before we move on to the last big one? Atomic Heart. I don't have enough to say about it. I don't think you do either.
I liked it. I mean, I liked it enough. It obviously it took great inspiration from games such as BioShock and Wolfenstein,
Fallout a little
and
bit.
I really a little Fallout too, and I really liked the setting and a lot of environmental art, and it had a really really cool unique style, and because it was it futuristic Soviet Union or is just I can't remember like the year it was
The
set.
concept is if the Soviet Union never fell, basically, and just like advanced in technology where they had made robots that do all their work for them.
That's right.
And then if the robots rebel.
Yeah. Yeah, the robots rebel and you have to, figure out, why they're killing everybody and why your boss, the basically the head of this research facility or whatever big company goes missing and yeah, I don't think either of us beat it if I'm remembering correctly. I know I didn't. Um
No.
and it has pretty solid shooting mechanics. It's kind of takes some getting used to, especially for me because I had just gotten a 120 hertz 4K TV, and you can set it to take advantage of all those hertz. And it's I've never experienced. I don't have much experience turning that setting on, so it was quite a new experience just seeing everything move so fast, but be in such high clarity.
Yeah.
Because it is it's a very fast game. You're constantly having to just circle around your enemy, and it can get a little tiresome at points because you can also dodge, and it's very herky jerky, and you're moving all over the place, and it can be disorienting at a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, I had fun for what it was. I think you and I had the assessment that there's a really good game in here, but it's it there's a little bit of there's a feeling of like lack of polish in quite a few areas of the game that I think keeps it from you know getting the next level.
I believe it's the studio's called Mudfish. It's their first game ever. So for a first try, it's not bad. Um, they made a lot of money. Big success on Game Pass. There's DLC I haven't touched. Probably revisit later in the year.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's definitely kind of just pick it up on a bargain sale sort of game.
Final Fantasy 16 came out. I've played 2 hours of it. You beat it. I don't have enough to say about it yet.
Yeah, I beat it. I think I've put like I did everything. I'm pretty sure I did all the side quests.
Did you plat it?
No, because the getting the final trophy requires beating it on New Game Plus, and I
Mm.
just haven't had the time. I probably will eventually. They've added some kind of quality of life patches and added, a few customizing options. So, maybe you know, maybe towards the end of the year I might delve back into it, excuse me.
Sure.
Don't know, maybe want to wait for that until you invest a little more time into it before we can
have a discussion. Yeah,
Yeah, dig
I
into
don't
that.
have I don't have an opinion yet. It's too early. I can tell you my initial thoughts, but they'll be kind of useless for the purposes of this show. We can talk about that off
Yeah,
air.
we can wait on that, and I'm still kind of I'm thinking about maybe bringing on a special guest, but we can also talk about that later.
But I think that's it. Let's go to the main event. I have no idea if we just lost the last few minutes of audio, so let's pretend we did. And if we didn't, I can always cut that out. Okay?
Yes. Yeah, we're having a little audio issues, or at least I should say I am, but hopefully our crack editing team can
You're you're no stranger to technical problems. They follow you like a dark shadow.
and I've always been a friend to technology, so it's a I feel like a battered wife at this point. But I can't quit it. Can't quit it.
Um, Another big game that came out several months ago, unfortunately, because of the way we record these silly things. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, I don't want to do too much setup, for this. So we'll just talk about let's stick to the games if we can. Let's just say the previous game a couple years ago, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, um, was very much a Souls light, I would prefer to call it. And that, you went to certain bonfires, and when you died, you respawned at those bonfires. Basically, that idea. But, the way you actually interacted with the worlds, kind of, sort of, was Soulsian. I think Survivor is much less that, and is more of just, an action adventure exploration game. But,
Yeah, I
Star
mean,
Wars.
yeah, it still has the it still has the same skeleton as the original game, which, like you said, is very much inspired by the Souls games. It's not quite as hardcore as those games, although the fights can get pretty tough, both in the first game and this game. I, I I I feel like it didn't wasn't as difficult in this game because they more than doubled the number of saber styles that you can use,
Yeah, you got a lot more player
and
options.
you get a lot more force powers as well. And by the end of the game, you feel like a proper Jedi, which I was probably my biggest gripe in the first game. I it just felt I don't know. I just never really felt like a Jedi badass in in most of Jedi Outcasts. But
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, yeah. Sorry, excuse me, forgetting the subsection of these names. But yeah, this one there's a lot more variety in the force powers too. It's not just like, hey, you can push two guys now. No, it's you can pull one, two. You can use them as a shield. You can confuse them so that you can attack other enemies. You can do all these other, slow down, stop time, whatever you want to do.
You can ride chocobos in the open world.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. They're weird, yeah, weird giant bird thing, wingless bird things. But yeah, because the area is a lot more open in this game.
It is closer to the first one was also like this, but they didn't sell it on this one. It's like they were selling it on the Soulsian when they should have been selling it on the Metroidvania style. And Survivor, I think, really adds into that Metroidvania because you do keep going back to the same worlds, same planets. But it's like, oh, now you can do this, so you've unlocked this whole new area in this planet. Go back.
Yeah, and they've added a lot of features that make playing this game so much easier and so much more enjoyable than the first one. Just the ability to fast travel at any meditation point that you come across in the game is it's such a I mean it's such a boon for this game, and it makes going back to those old areas seem a lot less of a hassle because there's a lot of collectibles, there's a lot of customized gear pieces, color palettes and whatnot to collect.
They certainly add to that too. Not just you even change your lightsaber or your blaster or whatever, but the customization you can do to your droid or your character Cal or your ship. The ship not so much, but which is more you can just make it look better. Like, In the previous game, you always just like change your poncho, you just change your overshirt, your fucking jacket. This one's like, have a different haircut, have a beard, whatever. Wear an undershirt. Look like a hobo. There you go. You're a Jedi now. Go out there.
Yeah, ton of different options. I didn't really care what BD looked like for the most part, and I was always annoyed when I'd open a chest and a new color scheme for him or whatnot. But it was cool customizing, Cal's appearance.
Uh, if I have a big negative about the customization, it is actually the lightsaber stuff, because while I'd have to think and concentrate about how many styles you actually have, right? So you've got single blade, you've got the dual staff, the staff, what I call staff blade, like the Darth Maul style. You've got one in each hand. You've got the really big long one with the stupid ass crossguard, like Kylo Ren. I don't care, that's a dumb saber. You've got a blaster saber, or a blaster in one hand and a saber in the other. But you can only ever have two of these equipped at once.
Yeah, I wish they had put in like some quick select menu or radial menu in order to quickly swap to another style. That would have been really really cool. Although that might have also really
Also because
broken the game because you could, yeah.
because you don't get enough level up points, whatever, to put in every single thing. So you kind of have to pick early. It's like, all right, we gave you the saber staff. And it's like, yeah, too bad. I'm not going to invest any points in it, so I'm never going to use it.
Yeah, if you're just playing the main story, then you're not going to level up enough times to be able to invest in every single thing. I didn't invest one single point into the single saber style because that was the one I mostly used in the first game, and it has, I think it just has the least variation in move sets. So it's the most boring to me. So I didn't fool with it. I mainly put mine points into the new ones, into the dual wielding. I did do the cross guard because while I also think it's kind of silly looking with the little lightsaber emitters sticking out the sides. It is an extremely powerful style, and it does a ton of damage. It is slow as hell, so it's not perfect for every situation, but it is useful.
This I don't know if we want to talk too much about the overarching world that is current Star Wars, but it doesn't make a lot of sense lore wise. That would be heavier because the blade is longer, and I was like, that's not how this works at all. It doesn't have any mass, so it shouldn't matter how heavy it is. But whatever.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, you could also expound on that when by saying, you know, why does a light emitter stop at a certain point for other lightsabers? Why are there short lightsabers? What why? It's just a beam of light. How can you take a length for that or whatnot? So
It's a beam of like superheated plasma energy, and you can adjust that, but it shouldn't weigh more based on how long it is because it doesn't have mass.
yeah, they want to say it's a beam of light, but it's more like a blowtorch that's
Yeah,
sometimes solid, and they can just adjust the length whenever they want to. I would have less of an issue with the crossguard ones if the actual hilt was heavy. It was big, like something like only a Wookiee could handle. Like, oh shit, that looks really really heavy. Someone like Yoda wouldn't be able to use something like that. So
the thing is they don't extend the handle, right? Because basically, what the way you quick change sabers in this is Cal has two, and he kind of like screws them together right quick, and then now it's a
mhm.
staff. But um, so if you have two together, you have one. So even making that the broadsword style sabers wouldn't increase it. You still have two hands. Eh, saber combat.
It's not for everybody, but for the
I'm a big old Star Wars nerd, so I know all this stupid shit like the seven
yeah.
forms and stuff. Doesn't have a lot of bearing on the video game.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking I don't know all the forms. I think is it form 5 that's kind of one of the more like brutal or martial of the forms. I can't remember.
I don't know the names off the top of my head. I just really I know what they are, but I couldn't tell you
Yeah.
which one is what. This is all extra stuff. Not terrible. It's
Yeah,
terrible
nerding
game.
out. But for the sake of the gameplay, the crossguard one does have its purpose,
Mhm.
and I also really like the just the single saber and the blaster pistol. I thought, man, I'm a Jedi. I'm not gonna. What am I gonna use this? This is dumb. But then there's all those really annoying enemies at a distance that sometimes I don't want to use a force power or I'm out of force energy. And it was really, really helpful in those scenarios where I can just pick them off from a distance.
I just throw my lightsaber. I don't even bother.
Well, I like
Uh,
variety.
how many pits did you fall down? Because Fallen Order was famous for. My main takeaway from Fallen Order, I did not like it as much as you did. You 100%ed it, and I tried several times to get back into collecting all the collectibles, and I'm just like, I can't fucking be bothered. This game is such a pain in the ass to play traversal wise. Traversal was my biggest problem with Fallen Order.
If it was a problem in the first game, then it's definitely a problem in the second game. And I think I probably fell down more in this game just because there are a whole new a lot of different new mechanics that are tied into the
Yes.
traversal. So
There's some almost like gauntlet style stuff during the story, and especially during the extra stuff. If you're going for like out of your way challenges or collectibles, you're doing some like hardcore force
mhm.
parkour.
But with the like I said earlier, like with the inclusion of the fast travel points, it's not quite as annoying as the first game because the first game I remember for 100% that game I had to get all the collectibles and you had to start at the very beginning and just run all around the map and just check every single nook and cranny. And now I can just pull up the map. There's a fast travel point I can go to. Okay, this collectible is not too far from there, so I'll go grab it. Yeah, there's also there's really like in the first game, there's not a whole much of a point to collect collectibles and gear, just because you need a there's a lot of different sort of different gates that require different powers or different tools or devices that you can only get when you're progressing through the main story. So if for me, if I came across one, I'd pick it up, great, but I was going to go out of my way and go nuts collecting stuff because I knew it's like, oh, hey, I can't. And the game does a really, really nice job. And I think it did this in the first game where you pull up the map and depending on the color, certain parts of the map will be either, if it's, places like covered in red or something, okay, I can't get to that place right now, or I can't access it. Or if it's in green, you can say, oh, okay, I must have the prerequisite power or something, so I can go there.
The droid upgrade to hack the
Yeah,
door, whatever. I do think this is a step up gameplay wise. Now's the part where we talk about the narrative. Spoilers for the entire game. What did you think?
I liked it for the most part. I these all these Star Wars stories that are kind of take place in and around or between the prequels and the original trilogies. They really it's hard for me to get invested in them because you know that it absolutely has no bearing on the overall plot, the big showdown between the rebellion and the empire.
Yeah, they this is a problem that a lot of things, certainly in modern day Star Wars, come into. It's like, okay, you're telling prequel stories now at this point. We're telling stories in between. You need to tell us why they're not in the later ones. And I've gotten to many Twitter X arguments of like, well, where was this character in Revenge, or excuse me, in Return of the Jedi? And it was like, is the galaxy so small that they all have to be there? It was like, fucking yes, yes. You need to tell me where your original character Do Not Steal are. How do they fit in this damn world? Survivor attempts to answer this in a way I'm not super happy about at the very, very end.
I appreciated how they attempted to make it a more insular story because if I'm and that's another issue and that's a whole nother can of worms with the Star Wars movies and TV shows. nobody knows what the damn timeline is anymore. So, and it's hard to keep track. But
Yeah,
I think, because I want to say the first game is a few years after Order 66. Like,
I believe
yeah,
it's
5 years, and
5 years.
then Survivor's 5 years after Fallen Order.
Yes,
So the Empire is still at the height of their power, and they're still a big threat in their and they're obviously they're pretty much they're a central driving force, even if they're not always a present. They're it's a it's they're this huge force that motivates the characters and to do it's putting them in circumstances where they have suffered and they have you know felt losses due to the empire, and they want to find somewhere where they don't want to look over the shoulder all the time. And
right. The first game's overarching narrative was basically, fight the Emperor, find this secret thing, so we can maybe train future Jedi, and then they decide, nah. The second game is basically, okay, I'm tired of fighting the Empire. I want to get the fuck out of this galaxy, basically. So they find some old recording of something. I don't want to have to explain the High Republic in this podcast. Like something from the High Republic, which is several years before Episode One, and they found this super awesome planet light years and light years away. And Cal and company are like, "Let's go there. How do we get there? I don't know. Let's find out how." And that's the overarching narrative. How to get to this distant place called Tanalore.
yeah, and they have to go to this remote planet, which luckily one of their former crewmates already settled and open an establishment there, and they basically just got to find a map or this key that will allow them to pass through this nebula safely to get to this paradise world on the other side, Tanalore.
The Reaper friend or foe thing lets you go through the Omega 4 relay.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, pretty much. A lot of that. There's a lot of clutter in space. I'm learning from sci-fi adventures because you always wonder, like, well, it's space. You can move in 3 dimensions. Why not just go from popping? Like, nope, the nebula surrounds it all. It's like, well, how can that planet even? How could it even stay intact or any inhabitants on it survive? But space magic. What can I say?
And it's like, okay, so, and again, this isn't endemic to Star Wars, but the lost civilization, right? It's like, well, where did they all go? They left all their shit in working order and just pissed
Mm-hmm.
off. The Skyrim, you go underground, all the candles are lit. It's that kind of video game thing. If you thought too hard about it, you'd go crazy. But the game doesn't really, want you to think about that sort of thing. Because, as you said earlier, it is a very insular story. It's a personal story. It's not a fight the Empire galactic. It is a survival story. You've got people chasing you who are also trying to find Tanalore, betrayals from within and without. So it's much more grounded in terms of like the narrative, I guess, as opposed to Fallen Order, which is about Jedi versus Empire, and this one's just like these 3 or 4 people, versus 3 or 4 other people.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to get to the big twist, quote unquote, the big betrayal from within the group.
So I thought it was a cool moment when spoilers, when Bode betrays you to the Empire. I was like, oh shit. Now, in my defense, I didn't trust him from the
Hmm.
jump. I'd have to think about it and replay the beginning of the game, but I know from the beginning of the game he says some shit, and I'm like, you're gonna betray us, aren't you, fucker?
Yeah, it's like anytime in a sequel they introduce a new character and they're acting buddy buddy with the main character, but I don't know anything about them, I'm immediately suspicious.
You're too friendly. I don't like people who are
Hmm.
too friendly who I just met. Uh, I was okay with the betrayal. I think that's a cool bit. When he pops out a lightsaber and starts using force powers, I start to have a little bit of
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah, then you learn that he was a Empire sleeper agent this whole time that could also use force powers, who also survived Order 66.
Once upon a fucking time. This is the only time we're going to have to go outside the game for this. I'm keeping to that. Once upon a time, you could sense other Force users in your presence in Star Wars. Literally from the first goddamn movie in 1977, I sense a presence I've not felt since. Darth Vader knows Obi-Wan is on the Death Star. He just knows he's in this giant space station because he can feel his amount of Force energy or fucking
Yeah.
whatever. This
Mm-hmm.
Force juice.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Survivor, you are with this dude for more than half the game. He sometimes goes on missions with you. He's on your ship. You go talk to him on the planet side, and at the there's less than 10 hours left in the game. It's like, oh, he was a former Jedi. How the fuck could you not? No one around you sense
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah, and it's not even just an oversight by Cal. It's all these other force sensitive folk. Um,
Yes,
like God, I'm blanking on names.
Marin and
Seer,
Seer,
yeah, of course, Seer's the big one.
Marin and Seer, and the professor. What's his nuts? Yeah, the old man.
And yeah, it's just none of these people realized. None of these force users could sense. Oh, hey, this guy can use force powers. It's like we got to the
Unfortunately,
point where a Jedi or a Sith needs to have a lightsaber strapped to their belt at all times in order to identify them or something.
unfortunately, there's precedence for this shit now. In new canon, there is precedence for characters suppressing their own force so that they disconnect themselves from it, even though that makes no fucking sense on Earth. So that's just what they're relying on. It's like, oh, under the new rules of the Force, you can just like turn it off like a
Yeah,
fucking
which is
switch.
bullshit because the whole reason Yoda went to Dagobah in Empire was because it was teeming with so much life and there was so much force energy that was flowing through every single part of that planet that was able to mask his force energy. So it's they just threw out the old precedent and they just made a new one. Bullshit. But yeah, I thought it was so like you, I appreciated the moment even though I could, I could see it coming because by that point in the game we had already defeated the quote unquote antagonist of the story. This
Yes,
old Sith, another one, go figure.
he wasn't a Sith. He was a Jedi from the High Republic who changed his mind when he got
Was
unfrozen
he a
caveman.
dark Jedi? Sorry, I know you don't like that terminology.
I'm fine with the term. What I'm not fine with is the argument about what it means.
He was a Jedi. He was a Jedi that used dark force powers. That's
Yes, so he went bad, but for some reason we're still going to call him Jedi. This is another new thing they've decided to do. I don't want to talk about the overarching thing that Disney does with Star Wars right now, but the High Republic is something original they've introduced, and there's a lot of it in Survivor. And if you know nothing about it, I don't think the game explains it very well at all.
I always kind of like the term fallen Jedi, but that can have many connotations. So it could be, I mean, that could refer to a Jedi that just killed his comrades or betrayed the order. Maybe not necessarily even uses dark side powers. So
So you beat the big squid guy, you beat the one-armed evil Jedi. Uh, you go
wait,
back to
hold
Desert
on, sorry,
Planet to
sorry,
party
sorry.
with your
Before
friends.
we move on, we want to talk about this one arm guy because at some point in the game, like right before the final showdown, he and I wish I'd saved it on my PS5, but I didn't put it on my computer because I'd love to show it. Not that it would help us in a podcast, but he grows a second arm using the Force. He has a Force Ghost arm.
Oh, kind of. It's old and new canon that Ghost can use the Force still. Now, he's Phantom limbing it. He's Phantom paying a big boss here to use the Force through his arm that doesn't exist, which I'm not super keen on.
Yeah, but see, that was another case of throwing out the old and here come ushering in the new, where the Force Ghosts there was never really any concrete. I mean, there was no evidence that they could interact with the physical world. And no, sorry, Obi-Wan sitting on the log does not count.
In books, I'm just telling you.
I know. I'm going off, what I mostly know in the original trilogy, the original precedent, if you will. I mean, the only reason Obi-Wan sat on the log was because Luke was sat on the log and they were having a conversation. and he just kind of did that to put him at ease or whatnot. It'd be disconcerting if he was just like hovering, like half his body was in the ground or something like that. But
I I will admit it is a big jump from that to Force Ghost Arm using 2 lightsabers. Yes.
yeah, I had to pause the game. I was like, whoa, 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 what is this bullshit? And the game just like
Really?
glosses over it, like it's oh yeah, this happens all
It
the
does.
time. It's like, oh well, I'm sure Anakin and Luke and Count Dooku would have loved to have learned about this little neat little trick that doctors hate this one easy force trick he can use.
I guess it's just Darksiders can use extra arm. Um. Yeah. Anyways, so we kill him like the Jedi way. We go back to Desert Planet. I don't remember the name of it. Jeddah?
Yeah,
I think
Jedi
it's Jeddah.
sounds right.
We have a big party. Say, hey, everybody, we're packing up. Let's go. Let's all go to Tanalore. You fuck your girlfriend, and then you wake up and you find out, oh no, that guy stole my thing. And you have this speeder bike chase, and he's like, oh no, he's a fallen Jedi. And then there's like 5 hours
Mm-hmm.
left. I was like, whoa, this isn't the climax of the game. It's like, no, a whole bunch more shit happens. Darth Vader shows up. Cere almost beats him, which is bullshit. Luckily, she dies because I don't like. Look, I got nothing against Deborah Wilson as a person. She's in a lot of video games, and I think she's a fine voice actor. They like to use her face for a lot of the voices she does.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't help, and she can't help how the way she looks, but I I put the fault directly at the feet of the animators that insist on doing it, and I guess that's their style of development because I think, well, of course, Cal is old. What's his name? Act.
Cameron Monaghan or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
he looks
He's
like
the
he looks.
actor, and he's in there. He's in there in the suit, and they're capturing his face and his body movements and whatnot. So, and I haven't done the behind the scenes, but I assume it's the same for Marin's voice actors and whatnot. But of course, they have to,
Yeah.
you know, change her skin color and put markings on her face. But yeah, I as far as the character of Seer, I mean, I think overall they they sort of nailed a lot of the arcs that they set up in Fallen Order for most of the characters in the
Mm-hmm.
game. Like Cal in Fallen Order, he was a one of a Jedi. He was a Padawan, and he was broken, and he had lost his connection to the Force, and it was cool seeing him relearn his abilities and overcoming his past traumas, and getting back on the path of the Jedi. Graduating from a reluctant hero until the events of this game, Survivor, where he's still fighting the good fight, but him he knows deep down he doesn't want to admit it, and I think that's a good quality. But everybody around him just they're trying to move on with their lives because they know the Empire just can't be beaten, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of an issue when okay, Luke's got to be the one. Him and the rebellion have to be the one that they bring down the Empire, or at least Emperor and Vader. But even if you didn't know that, you know that the Empire is they're almost omnipresent, and they seem unstoppable. And um, you follow this journey with Cal, and you see him slowly come to the realization, like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do this forever, and not by myself at least. And that's when him, alongside with Seer and Marin and the rest of them, they try to salvage whatever they can from the Jedi archives and the history, and to help preserve the order, and you know um, find a safe place, a sanctuary for training future Jedi and all that. But and
So that almost happens, but instead, Bode betrays you, sends a signal to the Empire. He's like, oh, they've got my daughter hostage or whatever. So I gotta do what they say. It's like, okay, I guess. Darth Vader shows up, wrecks everyone's shit. You escape from the planet, but Bode has the coordinates to the map, and it's like, well, that's our whole reason for existence now. So now they decide to take Cal Kestis on a kind of a dark path, which again I'm gonna like plus minus on because it's so narrow and limited in terms of how you use it. For some ass reason, there's less than 3 hours left in the game. Suddenly they say, "Hey, here's Ripper mode from Metal Gear Revengeance. Just do it."
Yeah, that kind of came out of left field. I don't really know. I guess it was just kind of they thought it was a mechanic that would fit with that, you know, that certain part of the game, but it definitely was different.
That long. You only use it in the end part when you're on the Imperial base looking for Bode stuff. He's like, "I'm real angry right now," and then Marin says, "Hey, cut it out. Stop being a dick." And Kel's like, "Okay, fine, I'll stop it." I'm just like, okay. And then you, for magic and force reasons that don't really matter, you do end up going to Tantalor. You have a final showdown with Bode. He's the last boss, and you kill him right in front of his daughter. It's the Jedi way.
No, I liked it. I mean, I one of the things I really
It is very impactful. I'm making jokes. It's very
yeah, no,
impactful.
it is. It is. It's not something. It's not an action to be taken lightly for sure because it kind of feeds into the story and a lot of story for the Jedi, especially those impacted by Order 66, where they see their masters or other loved ones struck down, by someone, usually a fourth force user, and it just kind of feeds into the cycle of revenge and death and whatnot. But I liked it. I like it because it didn't have this bullshit like modern writing everybody trying to talk Cal or him trying to talk himself out of not killing Bode. Like, oh yeah, sure, he betrayed you, and he's responsible for the death of all these people, and in our conclave or whatever. But remember the good times we had? We used to be friends and stuff like. No, Cal's like, yeah, so he listens to Bode, his side of the story, and he's like, yeah, cool motivation, bro. Still gonna kill you. He still betrayed us.
Still murder.
Yeah, it's like you're not remorseful. You're trying to
Yeah.
rationalize what you did, and you murdered a lot of people. You were responsible for the deaths of and many more, and you betrayed my trust.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I can't.
But he was doing it for his family, though. Like Walter White. You like Walter White, right?
Very much no. That'd be a big no. Like, yeah, no, cool story, bro. No, still gotta put you down. And I thought for sure they would. I thought for sure with his daughter there. I thought, okay, they're just gonna do this bullshit. No, not like this. But it's just Cal he delivers the killing blow right in front of his daughter, and he's just like, you could tell, yeah, it wasn't easy, but it's something he had to do. And for her part, she was kind of cool with it. um,
Very weird the way they wrote his daughter, because she never cried or showed a lot of fear. She was just like, "Are you like emotionally
she didn't
stunted or
act like a
something?"
kid at all. She acted like an
No, not
adult
at
in a
all.
kid's body, which I wouldn't mind seeing more of in kids and media, but I don't know if it's strictly realistic.
Supposed to be like 6 years old. There's no
Yeah,
fucking way.
and very sheltered too. So
Yeah. Anyways, here are your new parents: this gray lady and this guy who killed your dad.
yeah. Oh boy, that'll make Christmas a awkward affair.
So they kind of just hang out on Tantalor. It's the end of the game. They have a funeral for their dead friends, and
Yeah, kind of just
then it's like, okay, well, where can we take this now? Unfortunately, we have to break here and go to the meta. We don't know where they're going to take this because the studio head, Stig Edmondson, just left this week as of recording. EA, he's out of the company for whatever reasons we do not know. He left of his own volition. Well wishes on his future endeavors. He was in charge of Survivor and Fallen Order, so I have no idea what they can do with this story next.
yeah. When you told me that either yesterday or the day before, whenever I was meant to ask, and I also meant to look up like what the number Survivor did, like how many units they sold. Not that I don't know if that would have the total. That'd be the only reason why he's left or let go or whatnot.
There are a variety of reasons, like people at Ubisoft and Activision leave. Well, it's probably a sex scandal. People at EA, well, probably money, if I had to guess. People at Square Enix leave, definitely money. But no, we don't know yet. That's an ongoing story. We'll find out someday, I'm sure. But in terms of like where the story goes, because basically they accomplished their goal in the first game, and then undermining it and saying, you know what, we recovered this thing of force sensitive children, and we're gonna destroy it so the Empire can't find it. Understandable. In Survivor, it's like, okay, our point was to get here. We're here. Now what? Go back to the other planets and get 100%, Cal.
Yeah, it kind of just ends abruptly. It just says, "Okay,
Yes.
yeah, we're here now. Killed the guy who betrayed us. Now what? Yeah, just free roam stuff. Yay!"
I don't. I have no idea where they could take this, if they will take it anywhere. If this is, you know, what's funny is like this. These two games are basically replacement games. What I call them. I thought of this when Fallen Order first dropped. Replacement games for Force Unleashed. If you remember those games, it's the 15-year anniversary this week. Um, in terms of like the area in between Episode 3 and Episode 4, it's like here's a game, and you play the guy with a lightsaber, and you cut up a bunch of dudes. It's like, oh, it's a different kind of game than Force Unleashed was, but they're basically replacement games. And Force Unleashed 2 also ends on a cliffhanger that was never resolved because of the Disney buyout. And also because it did not sell well. So it's like, is that going to happen again? We're not going to have a third Jedi whatever game?
Yeah, it's a lot of things up in the air at the moment. It's who knows as far as where they could go as story direction. I would assume, you know, now that they found somewhere, kind of a sanctuary, just trying to move all their friends and family to Tanalorr, and then maybe Cal and Marin go out into the galaxy and just try to find force sensitive kids. Although, also entering the meta, apparently you don't need to be force sensitive to become a Jedi anymore. So
So, no, that's not true. She's not used the Force yet in the show. We're not talking about this in the video game podcast.
it's already been
Damn it.
confirmed. They've already said, oh yeah, she's got a lot of
Oh, they
gumption
have
and can
no.
do.
Yes, yeah, but that's not the Force, for fuck's sake.
Well, next time I'm in a restaurant, I'm just gonna try really, really hard to move a salt and pepper shaker.
The point is to take the ideals is fine, even if you don't have the abilities.
I'm telling
Um,
you, yes.
but
I swear, if
also,
she force pushes something, then
I'm gonna have a lot of arguments with a lot of people on Twitter. That's for damn sure. But yeah, the real meta is not actually about Star Wars or even about EA. It's about Disney. You know, they're not in the best financial place, partially because of a lot of the decisions they made with Star Wars, and certainly with Marvel. And things with parks and all this other shit, and Disney Plus and all this stuff. So it's like these games are still being licensed by EA. The KOTOR remake has been forever delayed, and I'm praying canceled because I don't want. I'm the one person on Earth who doesn't want a remake of KOTOR.
at this point, it'd be nice to have it. But if they cancel it, I probably won't shed any tears over it.
The next major Star Wars game is called Outlaws, and you play a girl, and she girl bosses it up all over the galaxy. Hoo-ha! She's got a terrible haircut, and you cannot customize her in any way, which is very sad because that was one of the better parts of Survivor. So she's just gonna wear that dumb jacket and have her dumb hair, her sassy robot sidekick. It screams Ubisoft game because it's a Ubisoft game. So just me telling you, if I say Stizzy, there's a new Star Wars game coming out, and it's an open galaxy thing, and you have a ship, and you're a bounty hunter, and you go exploring the place, and you're like, cool, sweet, who's making it? And I say Ubisoft. You're instantly going to plummet interest because you know exactly the kind of game it'll be.
One back to Survivor because it was
Yes.
not all roses and rainbows. At least my experience. And judging by a lot of the reviews I've read online, I had a lot of people the same experience. This game isn't optimized for shit.
They just had a recent patch this week that apparently fixed a lot of problems that they've had since launch.
They've had a lot of patches in between the release and
Yes.
now. And even at 150 gigabytes, which was the file size when I played it, which was a couple months after it released. And for me, the game, for the most part, ran like shit for the entire game. I don't think it ever reached 60 FPS, which I'm on PS5, and this is, it's a good looking game, but it shouldn't be that taxing. And I just don't think they did their jobs when they're optimizing it.
Yeah,
They just it
I,
was so bloated, and I don't. I mean, if the game was in this state from when I played it, I can't even imagine what it was like in a release.
you definitely ran into more technical problems than I did, which I think is the opposite of how it happened in the previous game. I had a fuck ton of problems in Fallen Order. Um, this one, I think it crashed because I played on Xbox. I think it hard crashed twice in terms of like turned off my Xbox. It crashed so hard, and it soft crashed like twice also in terms of oh we're just going to the dashboard. The game stopped.
Yeah,
But because it's very it's yeah like you said it's not optimized. It's so resource intensive. There's so many things going on. It's using so much GPU power. Just like your system is like oh fuck we can't handle this shit.
yeah, I think it crashed for me a couple of times, and it just didn't. Yeah, it was just it just ran like shit. I mean, it did. It almost.
A
I
lot of
mean,
frame
it
drops.
almost. I mean, it definitely took me out of the experience because
Mm.
if it was much smoother and it had a more stable frame rate, I don't think I would have many issues with this game. Besides some qualms with the certain story beats or whatnot, but it was in gosh, a lot of the cutscenes there were a lot of texture pop ins, and there was a lot of clipping, and I don't know what you call it when like the edges of a model look super jaggedy. Um,
Sure.
I can't remember if that's called abrasion or whatnot, but there was a lot of that, and yeah, it
Uh,
was.
it has the problem that a lot of games. I don't know if it's the engine. A lot of games have the problem when it's an in-engine cutscene, like not an FMV, not a pre-recorded thing, right? Because they're using the models in the engine, playing it live. They're popping it,
Hmm.
right? So every time it cuts, this you see that it's in 1,000 games. It cuts to a character, boom! It's like they jumped down. Their hair suddenly moves, their clothes suddenly move. Cuts the other character, whoo! Their clothes suddenly move because they just loaded in.
Yeah, and all the assets are settling on their model, like all their clothes and
Yes.
hair and doing whatnot, and yeah, there was plenty of that as well. Not for Seer though.
Hey now,
I couldn't help it. And also for
her eye.
the older Jedi guy, who's he just had the hair on the side, but
Yeah, the F. Murray Abraham looking guy whose name I
hmm
can't remember right now. By the way, I thought he was dead. Wasn't he
yeah,
dead?
I was gonna say the
Didn't
same
he
thing
die?
too. I thought he died in the first game. I got to the point the Survivor. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing here?
Like, didn't you die? Nah, the Force. Oh, okay then. We don't need
Yeah,
to explain shit. It's the Force. I ain't got to explain it.
yeah. For a second, I jokingly thought he was like an extra concentrated Force ghost or something like that.
Ah, he can manipulate physical objects. There you go. Perfect. We explained it away.
Yeah, anyways, handling everything. He's like, how can you do this? Force. It's mysterious. Who
The
knows?
Force. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody knows. Not even the
No,
writers.
no,
Um. Overall, an enjoyable game. Goating, I don't know. It was a very big stack year,
no,
like we said
no,
earlier.
not for me.
Um,
It was a,
I liked it more than fucking Diablo.
I probably did too. Um, Even though Diablo's much stabler game, but that's not the be all end all for every game, as we know. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think I did enjoy it more than Diablo, and I definitely enjoyed it more than the Fallen Order.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
But I think I've already played some really really good games this year, which some we've talked about. So, and there's, like we said earlier, there's many more to come later on. So it's probably won't be in the top three, but still good game overall.
Coming up next is Mortal Kombat 1, which we've talked about so much off air. I don't know what we'd have left to talk about on air. But I want to wait till we definitely get our hands on that game to finally pass judgment. Uh, Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I'm sure you're not terribly interested in, but whatever.
I got it in my queue,
Uh,
so I'll play it at least.
the Crew Motorsport, which I have on my shelf and haven't installed it yet. Fucking what else? The Yakuza game. It's not a Yakuza game. What's it called?
Yeah.
The Man Who Sold the World. No.
The I was gonna say Man with No Name, but that's not quite it either.
Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man
Man
who
who
erased
erased his
his
name.
name.
That's it.
Terrible.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. That one looks intriguing because not only it has the classic brawler Yakuza fighting style, it also has some sort of like stealth mechanics and or like spy gear you can use.
It's continuing the story of 60-year-old former gangster Kiryu Kazama, who changes his name to something I don't know.
It was is it Joryu or is that just for the Yakuza 8?
I don't know. Yeah, because he's also
Mm.
in that. And he's also in the next one, Infinite Wealth, with a different dumb haircut. Um, Spider-Man 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is coming out, which I would call Spider-Man 2.5 because I think Miles Morales was already a sequel. I don't know why that didn't get it's got a crappy little subtitle. Uh, what else? Metal Gear Solid again for the fourth time to
Oh, the
re-release
Master
that.
Collection, yeah.
Yes. Alan Wake 2, uh, the RoboCop game. Okay. Star Ocean
Oh,
remaster. The second story is a remaster remake.
it's it's a little bit of both. It's kind of it's kind of in that in between space on the spectrum, um, because all the environments have been totally redone into they used to be 3D backgrounds and now they're excuse me they're 2D and now they're 3D, and but they still have the 2D character sprites, and they just released a demo the other day, and it's still man, I cannot wait for it. It's they've just I was worried that the 2D and the 3D models would kind of clash, but they're able to blend them very very well, and they look almost seamless, and the characters look like they belong in this world, and the setting's not too detailed as far as the texture goes because I did a stream and I talked about it there where I think it would have been the difference would have been little too disparate and too unseamless, but I think they did a really good job there, and they've added a lot more mechanics to the combat and really spice things up there. And because it used to be pretty bare bones, it used you have a basic attack, and then you'd have special arts or spells or whatnot, and those are still in there, and they've completely redone the visual effects and special effects for those attacks, so they look fantastic. And they've also got these bonuses that you can gain through fighting and achieving certain objectives during a fight and whatnot, and gives you like a bonuses in attack, defense, stuff like that. They have a break system where kind of reminiscent of the Octopath Traveler games where enemies kind of have these. It's not a separate bar, but it's like these little shield icons, and if you're able to deplete them, you break them and it stuns them. You can do extra damage, and you get extra experience and money and whatnot. And they also have character call-ins where you can call in help from characters not currently in your party to do attacks and extend combos and stuff like that. And it's just I can't wait for them. It looks like it is it's everything I want out of a remaster slash remake. They have taken what was there and they've just improved on it. And as far as I can tell, looks like nothing has been taken out. It's just adding it in. They've done a brand new. They've Matoy Sakuraba's come in. He did the original score and already fantastic, but he's come in and done a rearrangement of it. It sounds, from what I've heard, it sounds great, and I cannot wait for that.
Maybe that'll be the first Star Ocean game I finish.
It's funny because I think you've technically played more of them than I have because I've only played three, I
I've played
think.
everyone. I've played everyone but the the Beyond Time. What's the time one? Something something time.
Uh,
I can't
is it
remember.
faithful enough? Faithfulness and something.
I've played
Yeah,
that
no,
one.
I can't remember. I kind of fell off.
Till the End of Time. Till the End of Time is the only one
That's
I've
it.
not
Yeah,
played.
yeah. And I kind of dropped off from the series when they went to the 3D models because frankly I just didn't like them. I didn't like the way they looked at all. So and they
The most recent one, the Divine Force, is okay. It's just a 100-hour JRPG, and we've talked about this before. But I think there's a difference between a 100-hour JRPG and a 100-hour RPG.
yeah, there's a usually a lot more side quest and grinding and
Mm-hmm.
JRPGs. It seems like Western
Yes,
RPGs are usually the content is kind of centered around the exploration and just going to different areas and just kind of ticking off all the boxes and okay, completing certain quests or objectives or something like that. But and the difficulty scaling's usually more forgiving in a Western RPG. But
Ocean is or Divine Force particularly is kind of hard, which is why I haven't gone back to it because I died at a boss and I was like, I'm gonna set this aside and come back to it later, and
yeah,
I still
I
haven't.
actually do have it. Gamefly sent it to me, so I'll have to check it out here in the upcoming days. But another RPG getting a remake is Super Mario RPG, which got announced a few couple 2-3 months ago, and that looks great. Everything, all the that's a pretty much a remake, just a like a 1-to-1 conversion remake where they taken even like the scale of the models because in the original like Mario, all the character models were they're kind of not chibi but sort of chibi like, and they've just made them converted them to 3D models and upres them, and they look really nice and really clean, and they've added it looks like from what I can tell they've added a lot of new features to the fighting and the combat, and they looks like they've made things a lot easier. You can in the previous game you could time your attack and do extra damage. In the remake, when you time it just right, you can do damage to all the enemies. So that's nice, and I think there's like a super meter where you can do special moves and whatnot, and that looks really cool because that's also one of my favorite RPGs. Probably my favorite Mario game of all time. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, but I didn't play a lot, including another Mario RPG that's also getting a remake, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, which I know you're excited
Door
for.
from the. I'm sorry, I'm typing in the background for unrelated reasons. Apologize. I'll probably delete that. Yeah, they're remastering, up-resing because it's a GameCube game, so you only the Super Mario 64 is absolutely a remake. I don't know how much you have to remake, quote unquote, for a GameCube game because they've already kind of ported over Metroid Prime. But yeah, Paper Mario Thousand Year Doors is my favorite Mario game that is not a platformer. I played the shit out of that. I beat it like 2.5 times. My major gripe was always because it was on the GameCube. I had what was known at then as an action replay, and I cheated. And by using the cheat device, I was unable to finish the game because it always glitched. There's like an hour between the final save and the end of the game because there's just a lot of battling and a lot of talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you hit the credits and the game would crash, and it did this twice on two different fresh saves. So I've never technically seen the ending
Hmm.
of the game.
That's happened to me. Well, that have the most recent example I think that happened to me was Vampire, where the game glitched out near the ending, so I never got to beat that. That's very annoying when that happens. But
Uh,
but yeah, it just like it the art style for Paper Mario doesn't really require a remake. It's just kind of like maybe touch up some of the rougher edges along it because it's got that 2D paper look to it. So it's kind of in a way the original because I've seen screenshots of the original since they announced the remake, and it still kind of holds up. Um, it's one of those I've always
they,
kind of not regretted playing, but I've always thought, I should go back and play that, and this looks like a perfect opportunity. Sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
They've made a bunch of Paper Mario games since, but they've kind of deviated from the turn-based combat formula into more of a sort of puzzle fighter or like a grid system with the Origami King, which is a very good game, and the DS one, the Sticker Star, which is not a very good game. But they changed the way you interact with the world, and people don't like that. They want it to be a turn-based RPG. Thousand Year Door absolutely is.
Yeah, and yeah, sorry, I should have been more specific. Because I think Thousand Year Door was the first in the Paper Mario series.
No, there was one on the 64 that was just called Paper Mario.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
They're not remaking that one, so eat it, everybody.
Eat it, all you original Paper Mario fans.
Get your dumb little puppet, and he's never going to be in Smash.
Who, Gino? Hey, hey, maybe if the RPG remake sees enough success, maybe they'll bring him back in there. I like him, but I don't require him to be in Smash or anything.
If they make another Smash,
Or if they give him a
presume.
sword, that'd be a pretty good qualifier. That'd jump him right ahead of the queue.
Yeah, he could be a Mii fighter, Mii costume.
There wasn't really much.
Anyways,
Sorry, I was just saying there wasn't really much else in that direct that interested me. There was a new Peach game, and that looked kind of intriguing. It looked like it.
I'm not a girl. I'm not playing that.
I mean, yeah, I probably won't either, but it didn't seem. Besides having a female character, it didn't look any more.
You literally just dress her up. Oh, she's a pirate now. Oh, now she can do kung fu. It's like this is a fucking Barbie game. You put peach
Okay,
paint on. You
all right.
liars.
I don't want to hear this from the guy. Just the other day, we're playing Saints Row, and you were sitting there worrying about what your female character was wearing.
Oh, this is all getting cut out. But you were joining me, so I had to be more respectable. That's the difference.
Oh, you want to be respectable for me? Oh, that would be a change.
For a multiplayer session, yes. Solo, fucking buck ass naked all around the city.
Yeah, I guess you can't be too careful. You never know who's recording and watching you.
Speaking of recording, I think that's the end of this one. Do you have any final thoughts here, Stiz?
No. We've played a lot of good games this year. Once again, I regret we haven't been able to discuss them more. Just
real life horseshit.
Just sometimes you just can't help these things, but we promise this I promise this every time to try to do a little bit better. I know we sort of touched on Final Fantasy 16. I still would really like to talk about that game when you've sunk your teeth into it a little bit more. So got to look forward to. Plus Mortal Kombat, that's another one. I'm sure we'll. Yeah.
If I had to predict what the next show will be about, it'll be about those two games.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Those are the next big ones.
Because I don't know that right now I couldn't tell you anything about Final Fantasy 16 beyond my initial impressions of the first 3 hours. Even though I've not played Mortal Kombat 1, I have a lot of opinions about Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh yeah, same here. You and me both. I think we felt like we've just been alone in the fortress and just side by side on the battlements in our opinions. But sometimes you can get that isolated feeling on the internet. Where you're just thinking, okay, am I the only one here? There are a few threads I've even read on Reddit, of all places, that are, that people have gotten their hands on the early access, and they're saying, yeah, this is, nice as far as the gameplay, but there's a lot of rough edges, and there's a severe, obvious lack of polish with the game. But a lot of people just kind of hand wave that away, saying, "Oh, they can just patch that away," which it's a
great attitude to have, consumers.
I know. On the one hand, I like that we're in the era that these things can get patched up, because that arguably is what has saved several games, including like Cyberpunk. Some big games that have gotten the after launch treatment and gotten a second chance, second life to them. But I don't like games launching that. And on the other hand, I just don't like games launching and then having that kind of mindset. And it just feels like we're just excusing the developers. It's like, okay, yeah, you don't have to do your job. Just release the game, even if it's broken.
When this always comes up, I always want to make the distinction in the act of fairness. It's like we always blame the devs. We really should always blame the publishers, the parent companies, Warner Brothers. We need to like go further for the overbosses rather than the lowly programmers who work on the thing.
I like to aim high, and I also like to aim mid because there's a bunch of managers and middle management in between those two that, yeah, a lot of times they're kind of a stopgap, but in the second time, they're also looking to advance themselves. So they're probably going to side
Name
with the
someone
higher
who
ups.
works at NetherRealm Studios not named Ed Boon.
What's that? Sorry.
Name someone who works at NetherRealm Studios not named Ed Boon.
Tyler Lansdale, but he's on the combat cast. But he's definitely the face.
No, like the actual development, the actual develop. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like my further point is like, we get pissy about the launch states of these games. It's like, who do we go to? The boss, the overboss, like Ed Boon. Ed Boon probably hasn't fucking programmed a game since like MK4.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely upper management at this point. There's no doubt about it. He's just the face. And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to sound like I'm going after the little guy and sticking up for the corporate overlords or anything like that. But I don't know, especially for any. I mean, we've discussed this ad nauseum before, but you know,
For Survivor, for Jedi Survivor, it's like, okay, who do we talk to about this? Stig Atkinson? Well, he's gone, so it doesn't matter. It's like I don't know even the names of the programmers who made the game, who have the actual problems, of the technical problems it has.
which yeah, I might personally, I'm not really too worried about the future of it since he's left. Because I don't, he wasn't a writer as far as I know. He wasn't.
Game
I mean, he
director,
wasn't
yeah.
like the Hauser brothers that have left, or one of them did. I can't remember if the other one's still there. I mean, there's a lot of guys in a lot of company and gals that were major contributors to past successful projects that leave, and then it leaves the future of the company in kind of a question mark, and you don't know. It's kind of in a weird limbo state, where you don't know. Okay, are they going to make another game in this series, or is this studio even going to still be able to function? Is it going to be around much longer? So
Yeah, they could fold it entirely into other
mhm.
departments. It's not unusual.
Or you get like a big big corporate shark like Embracer Group that comes along and just snatches them up and then does nothing with them and eventually just guts them and sells the scraps.
And then finds out, oh, that's not sustainable, and losing their ass, and they're going to sell off their stuff even harder now.
They just must have a bunch of fucking idiots running that group.
I think it is partially a bad economy by bad elected officials contributing to this. But yes, the buy low, sell high doesn't work so much when you buy high and sell
Mm-hmm.
low.
Yeah, when you don't do anything with the studio. You don't try to announce new projects. You don't try to you know give them extra help, hire new developers, extra resources. You're just kind of like, hey, make me money, but we're not doing anything. Oh, well, then I'm done with you now. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Pretty much, yes. The business, we don't usually get the business side of video games here on this because it's depressing
Mm-hmm.
every single time.
And we've stated many times we don't know a whole lot about it, but I think we know enough. And we
Well,
definitely, yeah.
we know from the customer side, like what we talked about today, of what game is worth $60, what game is worth 70, what game is worth 30. On the customer side, where we are, we know the value based on what we got out of the game.
And we also know, from a customer side, we also, know the amount of work that went into these games, what they try to pass off as a completed product and it's not. And how a lot of these publishers and big groups just treat the customers like they're idiots. And that just becomes apparent. And, even if we don't even know the much of the inner workings, we know the end result, and it's enough to tell us that these big businesses, they're not doing right by these studios, and it's not good from a either from a ethical or a business sense standpoint. So
Well, that terrible news. I'm afraid it's going to be after time to end this one today. For more opinions about how bad video games are, you can find us on our individual Twitters or X's if you want to call it that. I am at Loki Jarson.
yeah, I am at the Joe Stizzy.
Yes, I've been getting a lot of fights about Star Wars, not about Survivor, but just Star Wars in general, with random people over the last couple of months, driving Stizzy insane. But
It's amusing more than anything,
I
but
like arguing. I like arguing with
yeah.
people. I'm sorry. I even like arguing with Stizzy. It may not seem like it, but I enjoy our tete-a-tete, our back and forth here. Or parry and riposte with your weird lightsaber stance.
Don't give him any ideas. We'll have rapier lightsabers for long.
I wonder if I've ever seen. There's probably some. There's like fucking whips and stuff in the expanded universe. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows in EU. Okay, there's a lot of really
Yeah, there
dumb
are also
stuff.
those super skinny lightsabers in Rebels.
That's not as big a deal as people want to pretend it is. Like the Force.
It just looks stupid. They didn't they look silly.
That's how it looked in the. That's just a fucking stupid animation. That's the way they did it. Not everything needs to be over glowing. It made less sense that the okay, well, let's take this off air. Thank you so much for
Well, hold on, hold
listening.
on. You mind if I've actually gotten to the realm of streaming, and
Yes, that's right. I forgot to
yeah,
plug
yeah,
that.
no,
My
it's
bad.
okay. I'm just getting my feet wet, but yeah, my channel is Joe Stizzy with a space in between,
Mhm.
and I'm just playing, when I want or when I can, and what I want, and I may try to start doing, my own reviews, maybe on games we don't cover on this channel, on this podcast. I mean, but yeah, it's just something I kind of just do on the side right now and trying to have fun with it. So thought I'd mention it.
Just starting it up. One viewer, one subscriber, and who knows
Yeah,
where it goes from
yeah.
there.
I'm not expecting much from it, but if you're listening to this and you like what you hear, then if you want to, or you can watch me over there. So I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. And if you listen to this and you don't like what you hear, too bad, because that's all you're getting from me. The same
Yeah, we're done
opinions.
here anyway. So, haha.
Screw you. You listen to the whole thing. You can't take it back. Unless you skip to the end like a weirdo. Thank you for listening. You can find us at internetsworst.com. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music.
See ya.
Goodbye.